Hello everyone and welcome back to the final F1 Manager 24 preview video. Yes, we're back today looking at the all-new engine failures and mechanical issues that can plague you during a race. Of course, if you missed out on the videos that went live last week, we did one where we tried to set up our own team inside the game and really did sort of a deep dive into that. And then we did a bumper hour-long video last Friday where we went through and did our first ever race weekend. I would highly recommend going back and checking those videos out. But today, yeah, we're back for a slightly shorter one. Basically, obviously, what the team at Frontier did was they gave us a little scenario from the Australian Grand Prix where both Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez have had a troubled qualifying session and both drivers are struggling with mechanical issues. So basically, we've got to try and nurse them right the way through an Australian Grand Prix despite the mechanical problems that they've had. Of course, this has been a feature that I think people have been really asking for. Yes, power units don't tend to blow up anymore unless you're in a Haas or an Alpine, sorry. But it is quite cool to see still. And of course, you know, this challenge a little bit inspired by Max Verstappen's issues in Albert Park, Australia. Of course, if you are new around here and you do enjoy these F1 Manager previews and want to see more F1 content from me, please do make sure you get yourself subscribed. We're trying to hit 130,000 subscribers at the moment. And yes, we have been asked so much about when we are going to see some F1 24 content. All I'm going to say is stay tuned very soon as well there. But yeah, you can see then heading into this one, we were kind of just flung straight into the race itself. So Max Verstappen is actually starting this one down in P11. Sergio Perez is down in P9. Charles Leclerc clearly had a good qualifying on the pole, ahead of both McLarens and his teammates. So let's head in then to the Grand Prix and immediately I'm going to pause it so we can just tweak around a few little things there. So we're going to try and make sure, obviously, that Verstappen, as we see, taking a look at the powertrain, you can see the ERS is down at 4%. So, of course, they run a sliding scale of 100, obviously, down to 0. And you also now get a risk factor as well. So it'll come up, obviously, with if you've got an issue, but it'll also come up with how likely it is that your car is going to run into even more issues, of course, slowing it down or potentially forcing you to retire. So it also, you know, gives you a good explainer as to how you can avoid those risks. So, you know, for example, if you're struggling with the ERA or any of the engine components, to be honest, avoid the curbs at all costs, basically. So I believe that is what we're going to go and tell Max pretty much immediately when we get back into this race. And I believe we'll have to do the same with Sergio. Although his engine isn't as bad, it's still not looking particularly great there. So as we head back in then, I believe obviously we'll need to go into his driver tactic setting. And we'll say avoid high-risk curbs. We'll say you drive in clear air as well, just to make sure, of course, that he's hopefully going to see it through to the end of the race. It was a bit of a weird one, this challenge, because of course, you know, you both kind of obviously want to try and get the cars to the end, but obviously you also actually want to see what happens when you end up with a mechanical failure as well, of course. So you've been able to retire from crash damage in the previous games, but yeah, this is the first time round where real engine problems are at the forefront of the game then. So as we head back in, hopefully obviously we'll be able to try and sort of see what is going on with the car. There we go, we do end up with some audio. So yeah, immediately then Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, of course, are going to hopefully still, despite these issues, make progress up through the order here early on in the afternoon. Of course, you know, with the exception really I would assume of Yuki Tsunoda in front of us, all these other cars aren't going to be too fast. There's immediately, we're going to do a proper Red Bull and tell Sergio Perez to get out of the way of Max Verstappen as well. They're nice and early on. But yeah, this one, we kind of fly through it a little bit more quickly. We are going to see some other issues for other drivers as well. As you can see immediately on just lap 1, Kevin Magnussen picking up a puncture. So of course, yeah, this challenge, these were kind of pre-thrown in. So you can see just runs slightly wide open curbing. And obviously, yeah, picks up a puncture on lap 1 then. So I feel like, yeah, this race was obviously scripted as such. That obviously drivers would suffer with more problems. You can see Pierre Gasly now following him in the shower of sparks. Yep. The same fate has met Pierre Gasly as well. And of course, if you watched our career mode video, this won't be always what happens. It won't be that 6 drivers end up with a puncture or anything like that. But yeah, Gasly and Magnussen then forced to limp back round to the pit lane here. So really not the ideal start to their afternoon, and especially obviously when neither of them had contact with anybody else. You know, I think they've been very, very lucky there. Yuki Tsunoda also into the pit lane. Didn't quite see what happened to him. So that's going to promote us up then into P8 and P9 then very, very early on here. As we've got yellow flags now out. So it is carnage at the start here in Albert Park. Lando Norris, though, has taken the lead at the front of the field there, as it was Alex Albon who made a little bit of an error, trying to keep up with one of the Kick-Sauber cars in front of him. Just runs slightly wide, and actually does a very, very good job to not only get the car slowed down, but keep it out of the walls as well there. So yeah, this challenge, like I said, you know, it was very much, you know, they did kind of explain to us going in, it was everything's turned up to 11. It's, you know, this wouldn't be what you'd get in many races at all. You know, loads of errors for drivers, loads of punctures, loads of mechanical issues, that kind of thing. So, you know, do take this one with a pinch of salt. Of course, it was set up to hopefully, obviously, give us a better idea of what it was going to look like in the game there. And despite the fact, yeah, we're trying to fuel save for the max, he's still able to get the run on Lewis Hamilton. So this Red Bull, I think, is going to be still alarmingly OP. Of course, the last couple of Grand Prix have actually been quite close. Obviously Miami and Imola, so maybe Max, you know, when the game does come out, obviously performance isn't final, that kind of thing, so hopefully that's been tweaked back a little bit. I think we'd all hope that, you know, you can go in with Ferrari and McLaren and sort of have a shot at beating those top, you know, that Red Bull team as well. There's see, yeah, basically using nothing now. We fly past Lewis Hamilton and a new fastest lap of the Grand Prix as we start lap 3. So Verstappen's still clearly going to be able to get on with it. Sergio Perez seemingly struggled a whole lot more throughout the entirety of this race. And yeah, once again, showcasing to you guys more of the helicam as well on this game, because I do think it's a fantastic feature, especially when you are battling with other cars there. But yeah, Max already, though, we're very much kind of in the window of he's just got to try and keep it clean and tidy. You know, he's not going to be pushing to 100% or anything like that as he makes the move on one Mercedes. The other Mercedes potentially trying to have a look back past us down in towards the fast chicane there, and Russell has actually pulled off the move. So Sergio, yeah, is really, really struggling early on in this GP. But yeah, we're going to start fast forwarding through, though, as Max tries to close in on those top 6 runners there, the Astons, the Ferraris and the McLarens. And I think, yeah, he's going to hopefully be trying to look for a move on Sir Lance in a very near moment. There is Charles Leclerc actually suffering from a mechanical issue. So what is happening to Leclerc then? We get no real feedback at the moment. It only really shows up, I think, if drivers are actually retiring from the Grand Prix. This was actually something I said to the dev team as well. You know, if you're coming up with all these things in mechanical failures, it would even just be nice to have like a radio message. Even if it's something as simple as, you know, Hulkenberg goes on the radio and says something doesn't feel right with the car. I feel like it would be a nice little addition there, because otherwise at the moment, you know, we did get quite a few of those during this race where there'd be a mechanical issue, but we had no idea what it was for the other teams and drivers. And of course, yes, you won't always know, you know, whether someone else has got issues. But of course, if they report anything over the radio, then the other teams will pretty quickly find out what is going on as well. They see we've now made the move on Lance Stroll. And yeah, really what I was learning very quickly around Albert Park, more than what obviously we found in Bahrain, was the slingshot. Very, very potent around this venue as well. And as we make a move on the second Aston Martin car there, up now into P5, and maybe we're going to be able to get the jump on the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, our former teammate back at Toro Rosso all those years ago. I did very much, I'm sure a couple of you are going to be asking, pretty much just left Checo to his own devices throughout this race, and well, rather unsurprisingly, maybe not the best idea there, as he's going to make the move work on Zhou Guanyu again, just as Verstappen was getting himself involved in a 5-way scrap at the front of the field then. So clearly, McLaren and Ferrari sensing blood in the water down at Red Bull, and they're going to be trying to look to, you know, sort of stay ahead of us as best as possible here, as hopefully we'll head back to Max and try and pick up on the action towards the front of the field. You can see, yeah, the gaps are coming down still, as Sainz and Piastri duking it out there, and apparently, yeah, we're just kind of watching Perez tootle around, because that's what I do on this game. But yeah, I must say as well, of course, you know, we found out in Bahrain, Slipstream seems to be a little bit more potent this year, which I think is going to be a good thing. You know, it's going to allow battles, you know, sort of allow you to make more moves and that kind of thing. The AI seem a bit more dynamic in terms of, you know, where they're going to be able to make moves, how they're going to be able to make moves. You know, even if that's your drivers or the AI against your drivers. As you can see, we're going to try and take a little bit more out of the tyre down the outside of Oscar Piastri. Almost had a look around the outside of Carlos Sainz as well, at the same time as Hülkenberg is reporting more and more mechanical issues. Still don't quite know what is going on for him there, but can we go all the way around the outside of Oscar Piastri? We're just going to try and have a look back down the inside as Stroll and Fernando Alonso battling just behind us there. Can we go the long way around the outside again? Of course, Oscar Piastri, I'm sure, would want a podium in his home Grand Prix. We should be able to get the power down, and we are up and through into the top 4 there, as you can see. Yep, there we go. Gianpiero Lambiase confirming as Max Verstappen there informs him of the engine clipping. So we're going to go back down into the standard revs and try to close back up on the top 2 then. I mean, this Red Bull still, as I said, you know, it's pretty overpowered. You know, you've still probably got, you know, a 7, 8, 10th lap advantage, which obviously, especially when you're kind of out by yourself in a Grand Prix, you're going to notice. You're going to notice a lot there, as we're going to very quickly just see if we can try and use the battery out of the first corner here. And I mean, look at the run we get on Charles Leclerc there. Not quite enough to actually go for a bit of a diving manoeuvre, but certainly, yeah, you can see how much we gain down those straights. And of course, you know, this Red Bull is very, very fast anyway in a straight line. So Max, to be fair to him, has gone further than he was able to do in the real-life Australian Grand Prix, as we make our way then out onto this new and improved Sector 2. I do quite like the new Albert Park circuit. I think, you know, it was an aggressive change, but I feel like it has served well so far in its time in Formula 1 there. As you see Charles Leclerc trying to get the run on Lando Norris with the DRS. Verstappen going to close it to the pair of them. As you can see, Gianpiero Lambiase just informing us in the background as well of everything going on. I mean, look at the run we get off that corner, around the outside of Charles Leclerc, around the outside of Lando Norris, 2 for the price of 1 into the braking zone there. Lando Norris tried to defend it, but nothing he could really do, so we'll try and get out the DRS range, as we can see Leclerc trying to complete the move as well on the McLaren driver, and unfortunately, yeah, not quite able to get out the DRS range just yet. So we'll fast forward on a little bit more, and you can see actually very, very quickly, you know, once you're fast forwarding it, obviously, and if you've left the drivers in that high battery usage, obviously that's going to actually slow them down very, very quickly when they've got these mechanical issues. So it is going to require you just to kind of micromanage it a little bit more as well in that regard, if you really want to try and get the most out of the car there. But now you can see Charles Leclerc is out of the Grand Prix. What's happened to Charles Leclerc? We get a look at what happens to Carlos Sainz in the pit lane, but unfortunately I think because this all happened at the same time, we don't actually get a look at what happened to Leclerc. Looks like we actually get to see what the pit stop issue was. That's pretty cool. But yeah, unfortunately, first mechanical issue of the season, and we cannot see. There we go. We might actually get a look at it as to what's happened to Charlie Boy. No, we get one quick look at what's happened to Max Verstappen then, so a little bit of a weird bug there. But yeah, unfortunately, Charles Leclerc, our first mechanical failure of the race. And now look at this Lance Stroll. I never thought I'd be saying these words, but trying to fight for the lead of the Grand Prix. I can't even bear to watch that, and Stroll's made it happen. Stroll is through and leading a Formula 1 Grand Prix, ladies and gentlemen. Based on those tyre percentages, he is absolutely cooking his tyres to make it happen. As well, Nico Hülkenberg, you know, sky is up, and Hülkenberg has more mechanical issues than in this Grand Prix. This Haas is really chewing itself to pieces, apparently, so far this afternoon. Sergio Perez is now up into P6, as yeah, we're getting loads of pit stop issues as well for some of the other drivers as well there. So again, you know, one of those things, he's been turned up to 11 for this one video there, as I think surely Stroll is going to have to pit very, very soon in this Grand Prix, but both of us have been able to pull away as more and more drivers into the pit lane then. So yeah, Stroll is really just struggling as fast as laps coming in a little bit further back. So like I've said before, I think F1 Manager is very much still going to steer you towards 2 or 3 stop races for the most part. 1 stops don't tend to work just because of how much the tyre offset is over the course of a GP, as Stroll finally decides to dive it into the pit lane then. So we are still clear out in front, but I was hoping we could try and get these tyres to sort of about lap 25, and then obviously go on to a set of the mediums towards the end of the race, as Perez has taken a lot more out of his than Verstappen has, so not quite sure you know, what's going on with Sergio Perez there, but we should hopefully get to watch him as he makes his way down into the pit lane now. He's going to re-emerge all the way down in P12, so Verstappen, he's got a little bit more life in his tyres, but Norris is taking a lot of time out of him. So you've really got to try and sort of balance that risk versus reward. You know, obviously trying to extend both stints. And I'll be honest, I think with these mechanical issues, this hasn't actually worked out very well for us at this stage of the race. Of course, we might end up with a safety car or something like that, but we're going to opt to box the end of next lap. So 26 on the softs, 32 on a set of the medium compound tyres here. You see, yep, Lando Norris flies past us down in towards turn 3 there, and by the time we make it into the pit lane, Verstappen has a 4.4 second stop, so not ideal. I don't know if we can have a look at what happened to him there. He did have a pit stop problem. Was it the same as Carlos Sainz, sorry, or was it just simply... Oh no, you see they struggle to get the front wheel on, front wheel off and on there, and yeah. Max clearly not very happy about it, rather unsurprisingly there, so that's meant he's going to be out. I don't think he would have been ahead of Carlos Sainz anyway, and luckily he's still ahead of George Russell here, but not for very long. Russell down the inside, and I can't help but feel that these mechanical issues are getting worse and worse as the race goes on. We have got 11.5 kilos of extra fuel now in the car, so that is weighing Max down, of course, late on in this GP. As Sergio Perez, you can see there, having a reboot on the ERS system as well, so he's actually having to run a few laps with no battery in the car as well, costing him even more time, and that's obviously one of the other little features that you get in this game. So Sergio now, yep, he's going to have the battery back again, but much later on in the GP, and of course has cost him even more time. You know, without the battery, you know, that probably in a Formula 1 car now is 6-7 seconds a lap, and if that's going to cost you, you know, for 5-6 laps, that makes a huge difference come the end of a Grand Prix there, as Verstappen trying to look for a move back down the inside of George Russell there. And we were starting to get to the point in this Grand Prix where I was like, well, clearly we're simply not going to be in with a shot of winning it. So what it might be worth doing is seeing if we can actually try and force that mechanical issue there, as Tsunoda's now had a mechanical fault as well. So more and more of them are creeping in, but it's still only Charles Leclerc that is retired from this race. You can see, yeah, pretty much now I decide, you know what, we're just going to go all guns blazing and see if if Max Verstappen is going to have a mechanical failure. Here's Carlos Sainz, went for a little bit of a spin. Oscar Piastri into the pit lane then. So we are slowly moving our way back up through the order as well. But still stuck behind George Russell, who I think is trying to go quite long in this race there. Piastri had a pit stop issue as well. There is Lando Norris into the pit lane, and he's going to be miles in front. So really, yeah, unless we get a safety car, any shot of the victory is gone this afternoon. There you can see the team now starting to warn us more and more about those mechanical problems. We are still taking a little bit of time out of Lando and Stroll, but you know, it's pretty much we need a second a lap between now and the end of the GP. And unfortunately, you know, this race, although still very good fun, you know, we got to have a look at Checo's issues and things like that. I actually managed to get both cars through to the finish line. I can confirm it now, so I didn't quite get the mechanical issues that we'd hoped for. So basically now, yeah, we're just going to try and go all out towards the end of the GP. There you see Oscar Piastri makes the move back past us. Lando Norris now back up into the lead of the race, and you're going to see, yeah, you can see Checo there complaining about the engine as well. Max Verstappen reporting another mechanical fault, so we're going to bolt him onto a set of softs, just to really go, you know, all Hail Mary towards the end of the race, try and maybe snooker away a fastest lap bonus point here, as Max doesn't actually pit in that instant. There we go, he's going to dive in at the end of next lap, so you have got to be careful still of that in these races. You know, if you're too close to the pit lane, the AI simply will wait another lap. They do have a little bit of a window there. It's a 2.4 second stop. Not too bad. So we've got a 13-lap sprint towards the end of the race, as I think we're about to lap Sergio Perez as well. So yeah, Checo, seemingly, despite the fact Max was meant to be the one with more problems today, Checo really does seem to have, you know, kind of faced the brunt of it throughout the entirety of this afternoon there, as we actually get unlapped by, I believe that's Valtteri Bottas, down in that kick-stake Sauber car. But yeah, I mean, 35 seconds over 12 laps, and looking at the delta, we can't really do a lot at all. You know, those mechanical issues are really costing us late on towards the end of the GP then. So as we make our way towards the end of the afternoon, I'm not even sure we're going to be able to get anyone by the end of this race there. Everything kind of just settled down after quite a dramatic start to the afternoon. The only thing I'm still very conscious about is I'd ideally not want to see Lance Stroll pick up a podium, but I think he's going to. Oscar Piastri seemingly starting to struggle right towards the end of this race. There's more mechanical faults coming in. Hulkenberg now is out of the Grand Prix as well there, so it really has been a crazy Australian Grand Prix. But Lando Norris, I mean, he's comfortably out front, isn't he? Still, he's got 10-second lead over Fernando Alonso. It is going to be Lando and Fernando at the top of the board come the end of the afternoon. There is really just counting down. You can see this gap has basically just stayed level all stint long, despite the fresher tyres, despite the much quicker car. That's how big a problem the mechanical issues are going to be on this year's game. Max Verstappen can't close down a 30-second deficit to Lando Norris by the end of a GP there. But through the final corners, it is going to be Lando Norris that wins the Grand Prix. Tsunoda seemingly has broken down somewhere as well, right towards the end of the race there. Fernando Alonso P2 ahead of Stroll and Oscar Piastri there, as Max Verstappen will come through for P6. Sergio Perez, yeah, don't leave him to his own devices, because he'll end up P14 in a race like this. So you see he's absolutely destroyed his tyres. He's got no fuel as well. Sergio, I do apologise. If you're ever in my team on this game, I will make sure to take better care of you than we have done this afternoon there. But yeah, that was quite an extreme look then at everything that can happen inside this game. And he's had a puncture as he gets to the line as well. So tyre wear, yeah, does increase the chance of punctures there. So Red Bull having an absolute stinker of a weekend at the end of it as well there. But yeah, that was really good fun though. You know, like I said, it's not indicative of what you're going to find week in and week out on this game, but certainly is still quite cool to see as well there. And you can see, yeah, Crofty and Karoom Chandok, we let them speak during the last video, so I'm going to enjoy this one there. As you can see, Alonso, Lando and Stroll on the podium. I think the character models, yeah, they're not an important component in the game, but they do still certainly make me chuckle as well at the end of the day there. And you can see, yep, it doesn't happen often for Lance Stroll. I don't think it's happened at all yet for him in Aston Martin gear, has it? And he is going to be celebrating with some champagne at the end of the GP. But Lando Norris, a Formula 1 Grand Prix winner. Of course, second time now he's done that at the time of recording there. And Red Bull, well, they're not used to not winning, and trying to keep a straight face, keep the spirits up as we head towards round 4 of the season at Suzuka there. But yeah, that was really good fun. Like I said, a little bit of a different challenge, which is always enjoyable as well there. And there we go, the last of our F1 Manager 24 preview videos. We've made nearly 2 hours worth of content from these, so I really do hope you guys have enjoyed all of that as well. Like we said, F1 Manager, the full game will be coming out at the end of July, so 2 months away now from the time of recording, and I am very much looking forward to diving in with it. We'll do some streams, we'll play some games, it should be good fun, and I obviously want to do a couple of series as well with it as well there. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed. Of course, as always, if you've got any other questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'll try and do my best to answer those. And yeah, we'll be back very soon with more Formula 1 content.